Tonight, a Target 2 investigation into complaints made against Green Bay police officers. We wanted to know just how often formal complaints are filed, how they're investigated, and if officers are ever disciplined. The questions come as we wait for the final report on the use of force by Officer Derek Wickland during an arrest back in April. The cell phone video prompted an internal review by Green Bay Police. The State Training and Standards Division of the Department of Justice is currently reviewing the case, and police hope to have a conclusion very, very soon. While we wait, Target 2 filed an open records request to get a look at complaints and their outcomes department-wide. Sarah's been sorting through what we received and explains what she found out. Sarah.
Bill, after the video of Officer Wickland went viral, we received a lot of comments and questions from many of you asking how often Green Bay officers need use of force during arrests and questioning whether officers are ever disciplined when a person files a complaint. So we asked police for the numbers and to explain the process. We found out Green Bay officers have been disciplined, and even police admit more often than many people probably realize. Green Bay police estimate officers are dispatched to about 80,000 calls for service every year. But it's during the arrests, they say, when people most often complain about an officer's use of force or conduct.
From being in law enforcement over 18 years, that there is a lot of complaining on officers, but they really don't have a complaint.
In fact, police say the vast majority of people who call to complain decide not to file a formal complaint after talking with a supervisor. They don't track the number of those calls.
I understand it now. May not be happy about the outcome. That's the officer's discretion to arrest me. I'm not happy, but okay, I get it.
But department policy dictates each person is given the option of filing a formal complaint, and those numbers are tracked. Lieutenant Chad Ramos, whose job is to investigate every one of them, polled all formal complaints filed from 2011 through 2013 for Target 2. Of the 237,000 calls for service in those 3 years, the department has 115 complaints against Green Bay officers on file. The most common complaint? Courtesy, with 25. 20 are for unsatisfactory work performance, and 23 for use of force.
Use of force represents a small fraction of the calls we handle annually, and of the complaints, there's still a small percentage.
Target 2 asked for the number of times officers resort to use of force. Last year, it happened 255 times out of the department's 80,000 calls, or about 0.003% of the time. The department averaged about 8 use of force complaints each of those years. Every complaint is investigated.
But we're going to talk to as many people as we can to get every angle, everyone else's perception, so that we can build a case for or against. We're not going to take sides. We just need to have all the information available.
Police Chief Tom Molitor makes the final decision whether a complaint is justified or not. Target 2 found 85 cases in the last 3 years where the officer was cleared, meaning there was evidence showing the complaint never happened. An officer followed protocol, or it was a he said, she said case, and police sided with the officer. But 30 complaints were sustained, meaning an officer was found to have violated policy, though nothing criminal, in 26% of the complaints.
Our officers are not perfect, and again, remember, even if it's sustained, it could have been something as simple as some courtesy, where we didn't feel the officer used professional communication skills, if you will.
Police tell Target 2 10 of those complaints were actually filed by another officer or supervisor. The other 20 sustained complaints were made by citizens. Ramos says many of them resulted with an officer being suspended.
In the end, what is right is right. We want to follow that, and is just, we're not concerned about image per se in terms of how we're going to gear any of our investigations, because if there was misconduct or something went wrong or we can improve upon it, we're willing to do that. People need to have faith in the police that that's what we're doing.
But even police agree faith is not an easy thing for people to have when officers are investigating their own cases. We asked them about conducting their own investigations tonight at 6.
From WBAY-TV. This is Action 2 News at 6. Coverage you can count on.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. Cami is off tonight. We begin with a Target 2 investigation into complaints filed against Green Bay police officers and how they're reviewed.
Target 2 filed an open records request with Green Bay Police to see how often formal complaints are filed against officers and if they're ever disciplined.
We also wanted to know how the investigations themselves work. This as we wait for the final report on the use of force investigation into Officer Derek Wicklund after an arrest he made back in April. The cell phone video prompted a Green Bay Police internal review of his actions, which is complete. The State Training and Standards Division of the Department of Justice is currently reviewing the case, and police hope to have that conclusion very soon.
That incident and the review prompted a lot of comments and questions from people asking whether police can investigate their own officers and if they're ever disciplined or always cleared. Target 2 found out officers have been disciplined or suspended in 26% of all the formal complaints filed against officers in the last 3 years. We also asked police to explain how they investigate their own.
When's it going to happen?
Chad Ramos has a job a lot of police officers don't want. As a lieutenant in the Professional Standards Division of the Green Bay Police Department, he investigates every formal complaint filed against one of his fellow officers.
It's difficult, but if you know that you have a job to do and you're trying to be thorough, you don't look at it that way. I look at it as saying, you know what, let's just put the facts out there. Let's not be afraid of what happened. Never be afraid. Let's just report what happened, and what happened is already done. I'm only putting it together, okay? And we all have to be accountable for our actions.
After Target 2's open records request, Green Bay Police ran the number of total complaints filed against all sworn officers in the last 3 years. Out of the more than 237,000 calls in that time, there are 115 complaints on file, averaging 38 each year. The biggest complaints: courtesy, use of force, and unsatisfactory work performance. 11 of the total complaints were filed by other officers or supervisors. The rest came from citizens.
No matter how we're looking at it, the end result is going to be it's very small. It's just it's a fraction of a percent when you look at it as a whole.
Police acknowledge there is a perception from the general public that officers are always cleared in every internal investigation, but Ramos says that's not the case, and Target 2 found the numbers to back up that claim. Of those 115 formal complaints, 30 times officers were disciplined, even suspended for policy violations, though nothing was criminal. 20 of those had been filed by citizens, the rest by other officers or supervisors.
We are held to higher standards. We really are. Are we perfect? Absolutely not.
Ramos explained to Target 2 the entire process, which can take weeks, even months. They interview the officer, the person filing the complaint, and every other possible witness willing to talk to them. If there's a video or audio recording of the incident, they review that too.
The work we do behind closed doors is exponentially more thorough than most people think.
He asks the public to understand that.
We're not concerned about image per se in terms of how we're going to gear any of our investigations, because if there was misconduct or something went wrong or we can improve upon it, we're willing to do that.
And the police chief makes the final decision on all complaints. The department then notifies the person who made the complaint of the outcome and the reasoning. Police say they try to be as transparent as possible with the public in all these investigations. Police have also released more statistics to us, including use of force cases. We've put all that information on our website. You can find it at WBAY.com.